David Shear. I'm the chair of the Capitol Hill Neighborhood Council. This is an entirely volunteer organization,
It's like an hour and a half.
we do a lot of different things for the neighborhood. I would like the members of the board who are here right now to stand up, please. And don't worry, we're not going to shoot. Well, these wonderful people spend a lot of their free time thank you, serving the community, and I think they deserve recognition and thanks. And I personally am very grateful for having all these people on our team. We have a very, very full agenda today, so I'm going to have to really be kind of a Nazi and make people stick within the time limits that have been assigned. And also, this is, I should say, this is our first face-to-face meeting in almost 2 years. And I am very, very pleased that we can do this again. I never really found Zoom an adequate substitute for seeing people. We had our first live board meeting last week, and there were people walking in there who've been on Zoom meetings with each other for 2 years going, who are you? Really? Like, you just don't pay as much attention when you're on Zoom. Okay, I have to see who's here both in the room and on Zoom here. So our first report, we're not going to be able to do I can't do this. We're not going to be able to do a treasurer's report because the treasurer is out of town. So we'll skip that item on the agenda. And normally what we would first hear is a report from our council person, Chris Wharton. Chris, are you on Zoom? I know he's not here. Okay, maybe he'll come later. How about Bob Norgaard? Are you with us? This isn't working out so well, is it? Okay. How about Jamie Stokes or somebody else from the mayor's office? I see a text that Chris is planning on being here soon. Is there anybody here from the mayor's office? Okay, this is really going to help our jammed up agenda. Is Katherine Kennedy from the school board here? Wow. Okay. How about Jen Dailey-Provost?
Jen is coming from another council meeting.
You're kind of breaking up there, Polly. Okay.
Jen is coming.
Who's coming?
Jen is coming. Will be late.
Okay.
Jen
Dailey-Provost. Chris Wharton, that's who we're speaking. You're on, Chris.
Sorry, I got lost. I didn't remember where this place was. That's a joke I did. Good to see everybody. So what the council is working on right now are number one is redistricting. A lot less exciting than the redistricting that happened up at the Capitol. We're just doing the city council districts. And for the most part, they're pretty much unchanged from what one of the maps is virtually exactly the same. Two of them, though, that I really oppose, that I don't think that there's a lot of support for, would cut Marmalade in half. So I really do not want those. But I don't think that there is a lot of support for those for other reasons anyway. But if you were inclined to write in about that, you might want to comment. We have 6 maps that were put forward from our independent redistricting commission, and the council will pick from one of those maps. And from what I've talked with my colleagues, like I said, those maps are not favored. You can write to me, or you can write to, if you just write to council.comments@slcgov.com, and that will go to all of the council members. And so we will take some more public feedback on that and then we have to vote on that at our first meeting in March or I'm sorry, May. And so that's what that's scheduled for. If there's an emergency, we have to push it back. We can push it back one more week, but that's what we're going for. The next big thing is the city budget. It's starting now. So we're starting to go through department by department and hear whatever changes any department might have to their proposed budget for the year. The good news is that revenue for the city is really up, which is great. Even though our downtown is only at about 40% capacity right now from where it was pre-pandemic, that's office space. Retail and food is getting closer to where it was before the pandemic, but people coming back to their offices is good news for all of us because so much of the city budget is based on sales tax. And if those people are coming into work and they're spending more money downtown, that means more revenue for us to be able to address urgent city needs. My big priority for the budget is going to be trying to get, in our last budget, we started our park ranger program. And we were only able to do a couple parks, the parks that had the most calls for service from police, fire, animal patrol, all of those things. In this budget, my biggest priority is to expand that to the trails. And so I know that there are a lot of issues that are happening up at the Ensign Peak trailhead. And so I would like to have a park ranger or two park rangers that are dedicated just to patrolling the trails. These are non-law enforcement, but they are there to make sure that people are aware of what the ordinances are and to help get faster responses if there is like criminal activity that they observe, or if there is, if they need animal control to come and assist with something, it'll make that process a little bit faster. And those are the major things, and happy to answer any questions that people have. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great question. So we do, but we only get it. So it's all about where you define point of sale, and Utah defines it as the point of delivery. So if something comes from, let's say somebody orders from a restaurant on DoorDash in the restaurants in South Salt Lake and it comes here, the delivery address is where the sales tax gets charged. So same, but you know, it's also true for us. Somebody orders from a restaurant in our city and they go to theirs, they're getting our sales tax. So the good news is though that all of those purchases are exceeding the city's projections. So what we had anticipated would be point of sale in Salt Lake City is higher than what we had budgeted for, which is good. You know, we can't go crazy with it because that's one-time funding. It doesn't mean just because it's there now, it doesn't mean that it'll be there next year at this time. So we try to be really careful about using one-time funds for ongoing expenses. But it's good news overall because it means that it improves our overall forecast for the city. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thanks very much, Chris.
Good to be here.
Welcome to our first meeting in 2 years.
Great.
Okay. All right. I have a kind of a, one second. Okay, can the people on Zoom hear what's being said in this room? Okay, good.
It's good, yeah.
Yes, that would be very, very helpful. Okay, so in the meantime, while Chris was speaking, did Bob Norgaard or somebody from the police department join us? Okay, Catherine Kennedy. Okay. And I was told Jen Dailey-Provost will be here, but a little bit later. Okay, so the first item on our agenda is an application for a conditional use permit for a cement plant on Warm Springs Road. And we have folks here representing the applicant. If you guys wouldn't mind coming up here, you want to swap out the computer so you can show slides.
Can you Zoom folks there? Yeah, this is just HTML. So
if you can stand sort of in the middle, then you'll be on our.
Go ahead, Jason.
While Quinn's getting us called up, so I'm Jason Klum, and I'm the region manager for Granite Construction here in Utah. With me is Quinn Bingham. He is our environmental manager, our resource manager who looks after our facilities here in the state of Utah. And then on my right is Doug Clements. He's the owner of American Eagle Concrete, who would be the operator of this concrete plant if we get the approval and put one in our facility there on Warm Springs Road.
Good deal. I'm drawing. Yeah. So my wife and I used to live on Hillside Avenue. Bryn, yep. And remind me of your name. Glenn McBride, that's right. I'm going to move this over here. Yeah, it's good to be back. We just want to take a minute to share with you guys what we are proposing at our property. Right here, is that better? There we go. Yeah, so we just want to give you guys a rundown of what we've proposed at our property on Warm Springs Road. I don't know if you've seen our office there on 10th North on Warm Springs Road, but we have a property there, office space, and then to the south of our office is a big, I don't know, is it 4 acres? Jason, do you know roughly the acreage?
We totally about 48. We have about 40 acres total there with our office space.
Gotcha. And so the southern portion of that property, we're proposing constructing a construction manufacturing plant. And so we submitted a conditional use permit for that, and hence we got the invite to come and talk to you guys about it, answer questions, and give you a little more information. So this figure, I think you guys know where it is. We're right here at the library. Our property is located right here on Warm Springs Road, about 8th North. This figure is zoomed in. So if you're familiar with where our office space is located, it's right up here to the north. And then we own this parcel of property to the south, and it's currently being used for equipment storage. So we just store equipment there right now. And what we've proposed is on the southern half of that property, is, as I mentioned, a concrete manufacturing plant. So just a ready mix where we mix concrete, trucks come in, load the truck, they go off to the project site. This figure just a little bit closer up, kind of give you an idea what the proposed plan looks like. So once again, here's Warm Springs Road. And then, so the egress and ingress for this plant would be right here on the southern portion. So trucks would come in, come through here, load, and exit out this way. Just to point out a few features, we have an aggregate stockpile. So all the aggregate for cement is washed, so it's clean, it's not super dusty. That'd be stockpiled here. Cement would be made here, concrete made here, just some parking, some washout to clean out the trucks, and then a detention basin to maintain all the washout water, as well as any stormwater that lands on this parcel would drain to here. Anything else worth pointing out here? I think those are the main features. Yeah. So right here is the detention basin. It's kind of hard to see right here, but basically the property would essentially drain to this location here to maintain water that's any stormwater that falls on the property, as well as washout from the trucks would be maintained on site and recycled for use to reduce our water consumption. 53 feet. Yeah, 53 and a half. I do, and I can pull it up here in a second. Yeah. I don't have it on the slide. This slide, it's kind of tough to see with the sliding. Jason, can you hit some of those lights behind you if possibly? Or are they? Oh, is it up here? Oh, I'm blocking the view. There we go. That's good. So this would be the truck routes coming to the facility. As you're probably familiar with, the 600 north exit here, if you're coming from the south, if you're trying to access this property, it's easiest to head west, go on 9th West, and there's that bridge that comes over. However, we would route all truck traffic coming from the south up to the 2300 north exit. And so any trucks coming from the south would exit on the 2300 north and then head south on Warm Springs Road down to the plant. And then trucks coming from, actually this is 2300 north, I'm sorry. So trucks come from the south to go all the way up to here, come south on Warm Springs Road. Trucks coming from the north would just take that 10th north exit, goes over the bridge over the interstate to the east, and then they'd gain access to Warm Springs Road right to the facility. And that way it would eliminate truck traffic in residential areas. Any questions on that? Glenn? Jason, can you give him a mic?
That magenta colored arrow that's going south towards 5th North. Yeah, that one. What's that about? What traffic does that represent?
That's the southbound on-ramp. So if the trucks were going to go on south, they'd get on that on-ramp.
Okay, going south on I-15. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. So just to clarify that a little bit, Glenn, you're coming out of the plant right here along Warm Springs Road and then heading south, and that's your access onto the interstate there.
That magenta originates somewhere in the middle there, it looks like, just below that turquoise. But I think I understand it now. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. And then just to clarify too, this is that bridge that goes over the interstate.
Will the maps be available anywhere for people not here to view?
We're happy to leave this with you in the right form, and you guys can share it how you want.
Yeah, so maybe Dave will get with you afterwards and give you the slides and. Okay. And we're happy to provide you the PDFs. That might be easier to post on your website. Any other questions on the truck routing?
Because we have such a full agenda, this is going to be primarily an informational session. If you have one question, we can handle that, but I'm sorry that we don't have time to ask all the questions I'm sure people would like to ask. The council will gather questions through our website and I will pass them along to you.
Yeah, we're happy if you gather questions, get them to us. We're happy to respond. We're happy to come back and answer them, whatever works best for this group.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
But
let's keep my agenda with, the next, where's the first one? Okay. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your coming. Our next presentation will be about the corridor expansion for I-15. We have some folks here from Hawks, right? No, just UDOT. All right. We're going to hear from Walt Disney, not Mickey Mouse. That's great. So you guys want to come up? Do you want to hook your computer up to this? Oh, is it USB-C?
Yeah, USB-C or USB. Is there, do I have the? Yep. Yeah, I could log in and share screen if that would be. Inconvenient with my surface.
Oh, you know what? You can't do it because I don't have another log. I'm already logged in twice.
I can log in.
Yeah, she joins the Zoom meeting, but you project the Zoom meeting from your computer.
We'll put yours back in and I'll.
Your other duties is prescribed here. The IT guy.
Everybody's got to be an AV technician, no matter what. You do. For those of you who on Zoom who probably can't see what's going on, we're having a little trouble getting the UDOT person's presentation up on the screen because her computer doesn't handle the kind of connection we've got.
All right, so I'm just going to get started. I know Dave's got a. Sure. Oh, get picked up on there. Is this far enough? Okay. All right, so I know Dave's got a tight agenda, so I'm just going to jump in. So I guess I am Mickey Mouse. I do work for HDR, so I'm a consultant for UDOT on the project, and Siobhan with me is part of the public involvement group. So I'm part of the group that's preparing the environmental impact statement. So we are at the kind of the beginning stages of this project. So the project limits are from Farmington kind of the US 89 Farmington, or sorry, Legacy US 89 interchange in Farmington down to the I-80 400 South area in Salt Lake is kind of our project limits. So we're doing what's called the scoping and purpose and need phase of the project right now. And the project is scheduled to go for about 2 years. UDOT's anticipating making a decision 2024. All right. So we kind of have we have a somewhat more detailed presentation, but we're going to kind of zing through this and hopefully we can take a couple questions if need be. But probably the most important takeaway is all the project information is up on the project website, and we're taking comments through May 13th. And there's no alternatives or lines on a map right now. We basically just have kind of the project needs and the scoping level information that's available for review right now. So UDOT's probably I'm going to hit the screen if I dive down every time to do this, but UDOT's doing the project using their quality of life framework. This is kind of what's shown on the screen here. So that's better mobility, good health, connected communities, strong economy. Advance, please. So here's the map that shows the study area. And we're also, as part of the project, looking at all the accesses on or off the freeway in this segment as well. So that's kind of what the little bulb outs on the cross streets are shown there on the figure. Next slide, please. And this is a graphic of our study process. Again, we're front end of it right now. Purpose, need, and scoping is kind of where we're at. There's planned to be a second round of public involvement around the alternative development phase, and we're anticipating that'll be towards the end of 2022. There'll also be a draft DIS. Tentative schedule for that is in 2023, probably towards the end of 2023. And as I mentioned earlier, we're thinking a final decision will be made kind of 2024 timeframe, roughly 2 years from now. Go ahead and hit the next one too. Okay. So some of the project needs we've identified so far. So a lot of this project is just infrastructure maintenance and reconstruction. So there's a lot of pavement that's old and kind of at the end of its design life, similar with the structures. There's a lot of structures that are getting close to the 50, 60 year time frame, which is kind of the end of their design life. And there's also a few drainage issues in terms of pipes that are undersized or not big enough to kind of handle the current stormwater regulations. So that's one part of the project, is just to kind of address all the maintenance needs. There's also, I guess, a capacity and travel time need that UDOT's going to be looking at. So maybe a little hard to see, but this graphic's basically showing that current conditions and in kind of the peak travel periods, you would go from a 18-minute commute if you're coming from the north to a 55-minute commute in 2050 if nothing were to be done. So roughly a 3x increase in travel time and delay. And it would be similar in the northbound direction in the afternoon. It would go from a 19-minute trip to a 66-minute trip in the afternoon and no action conditions. And another part of the project, as I mentioned before, is we're also looking at the interchanges. So this includes if there's any changes to access, modifications to access, that's all going to be included in the project. And there's also a few safety issues on the corridor. A lot of these are a little more in Davis County, but there's a few areas where there's not enough shoulder where you can't really safely get people off the road right now in the event of an emergency, especially on the inside. So I'll be looking at trying to address some of those safety issues. And as you guys may be aware, a few of the curves, like they call it the S curve that goes over the railroad tracks kind of by Beck Street, it's got substandard curvature in terms of the current design speed out there. So they'll be looking at trying to address issues like that as part of the project as well. And another big piece of this project, and this may be one that I know we've heard of from the city already, is kind of our connections across I-15 for cars and people on bikes and pedestrians as well. So that's a big piece of this that we're kind of lumping under the connected communities. And right now we realize it's kind of a limited connections in a lot of areas. So trying to make sure we're hitting that as part of this project as well. yeah, so when we're saying limited connections, I mean, that's certainly east-west going across, and yeah, all modes we're trying to accommodate with the project. So we have done a few early stakeholder meetings and met with the city transportation group, and we had a what we call the smart growth walk audit, and I think we had a few representatives from the group here that were part of that here at the 6 North area. So we're going to keep building on that as part of the project as well once we get further into alternative development and design.
Okay. Yeah, if you don't mind. Okay, so what's important for all of you to understand is that we are in an environmental study phase. Like Kevin was talking about, we are very early, and being very early in a study like this means that most people, not the people that are here because you're all engaged citizens, but most people don't take the time to pay attention and get involved. And this is where we really need your feedback at this point. And we've engaged some folks, we've engaged with your lovely council member here has talked with us, several of your elected officials, some of your leadership here at the community council has talked with us, and several people came out and walked 6 North with us. And we looked at what does it feel like to walk 6 North? For those of you who have walked 6 North, it feels a little bit nerve-wracking, right? And so this north-south, we're looking at north-south travel on I-15, right? But part of that is how do you access I-15? How do we access that? How do we get across it? How do we get under it? In Salt Lake, that is something that I've been doing projects, helping Salt Lake and helping UDOT with projects in Salt Lake for a really long time. And that I feel like that's a bit of feedback we've been hearing quite a bit over that time is it's a barrier east to west. How do we get through it? How do we get over it? How do we ride our bikes over it? This type of thing. So we are at that point when we're talking about engagement. There's a number of things that we're doing. Some of this might be review for those of you who are super savvy on transportation, but the National Environmental Policy Act is what governs EIS like this. And an EIS stands for Environmental Impact Statement. And there's a couple of things we are required to get feedback on at this point. And one of those is purpose and need, which I will read to you, which will be quick, but I promise it's important. And the other thing is screening criteria. But the third thing, which is we want to hear your ideas. And we've already been talking to some of your leadership about interchanges and truck traffic. And we have heard a lot of the feedback from this community specifically. So pat the back of all of your representatives because they have been really vocal already about, we've heard quite, and there's another one over there who we've already heard from. Dirk Kitchen is here as well. And so we've heard from a lot of folks and they've represented you very well on a lot of these issues, but there's more to be done. We want to hear from each of you individually on these things. So we will look at these resources as part of an environmental study. Some of these are really applicable to this area, like land use. This study looks out at 2050. So how we move through I-15 now is probably not how we're going to move through I-15 in 2050, right? Things like floodplains, ecosystems, hazardous materials, which I know there are some of those near I-15 in Salt Lake City, and air quality, noise. There are mechanisms to study all of those through an environmental impact study. And so you can keep cruising through that one. Okay, so purpose and need is one of the things. This is a draft purpose and need statement. That means it's what we think as a project team based on some of the early conversations we've had and based on what we know about what this roadway needs. However, we need input from you to make sure we've captured it because this is what the study will be based on. So to improve safety, replace aging infrastructure, provide better mobility for all travel modes, strengthen the state and local economy, and better connect communities along I-15 from Farmington to Salt Lake City. The project purpose consists of the following items, which are organized by UDOT's Quality of Life Framework, which is why Kevin shared that with us earlier. Good health, connected communities, strong economy, and better mobility. The reason we keep bringing that up is because historically UDOT knows how to build roads. They know how to build them very well. They know how to build them for cars. And this represents a shift in thinking at the department to try and be a bit broader in how they think about issues of cycling, air quality, just looking a little more broadly in how we think about transportation. So with in the purpose and needs statement under good health and connected communities, improve safety and operations of I-15 mainline, I-15 interchanges, bicyclists and pedestrian crossings, and supporting roadway network, which are some of these local roads. Be consistent with planned land use. That means your local land use plans that already exist through Salt Lake City, WFRC, other things, growth objectives, transportation plans, enhance access, connectivity to front runner, connection to transit and regional trails and across I-15. Now here we go with strong economy and better mobility, replace aging infrastructure on I-15, which are some of the things that Kevin touched on, enhance the economy by reducing travel delay on I-15, improve mobility and operations on I-15 mainline, I-15 interchanges, supporting roadway network, transit connections, bicyclist and pedestrian facilities to help accommodate projected 2050 travel demands. So it is not the most riveting document you will ever read, but it is it's very foundational to what will ultimately come out of this study. So do take some time and think about what's in there and make sure it reflects what you might like to see at the end of the day of projects that would come out of a study like this. Next up is screening criteria. It is exactly what it sounds like. We will take all of this feedback that we get from all of you fine people and all of your representatives, and we will come up with all the things we know and Kevin knows and all of the technical folks, and we will come up with alternatives. We'll say, oh, it looks like maybe the I-15 would benefit from whatever it is, a pedestrian bridge or a extra lane or, all these different things. And we will hold them up and we will hold them up to a screening criteria. Examples of some of the ones, it is a long list. I will not read you this whole list because it is long, but examples include, does the alternative meet UDOT safety standards like curvature, lane shoulder widths, access? So we need to say, okay, yeah, this alternative meets that. Does it improve bicycle and pedestrian accommodation at cross streets and interchanges? That represents a little bit of a change in thinking. I don't know that that would have been a screening criteria on a previous study. So there's a long list of them. Do go to the website and take a look and say, okay, so if they come up with an alternative and they hold it up to these criteria, am I good with that being how this is evaluated? Okay. There are boatloads of ways to submit a comment. First and foremost, go to the website. There is a GIS-based comment tool where you can drop a pin and you can say, here, I think, in this area, I would like you to consider this. It's in Spanish and in English. And there's no limit to the number of comments. So go in there and have all the fun. You can send us an email if you want to do kind of just a long written out formal comment and that's your comfort level. Go ahead and send us an email. If you're really feeling a long hand, you can send us an actual letter, or if somebody needs special accommodations to do a comment, you can feel free to give us a call to do that. And back to the schedule, I feel like Kevin already touched on this, but something I would add is just, this is not a project yet. It is just a study to evaluate what does I-15 need. You've been to Utah County, you've seen how that looks, and that has already been sort of studied and done. And that was the needs of Utah County. That reflects the needs that they shared. What would it look like for Salt Lake City and Davis County? And how would you want that to look for you all? And so there is funding, but right now, construction wouldn't be until 2026. So we're talking about, let's look at the future, but now is the time that we need those comments so that we can build it to reflect what you all are thinking about. Build the plan, not build the road. And this is just to say, while we are in a 30-day comment period, it started on April 11th and it goes until May 13th. That's kind of the official NEPA comment period. It doesn't mean you can't talk to us any other time. We're happy to have conversations. We're happy to come back and present again if that's useful to you. And we will during our next official comment period, but we're happy to come in and talk and present any old time. Please do join the Facebook group because that's probably where you'll get the most updated information. And that's it. I hope we were as brief as we could be. I know you have a tight agenda. I don't know if you want to offer questions or if you want to just have them communicate with us offline. That is up to you as our hosts. So you tell me. Okay, we do have. Okay, it sounds like we are accepting a couple of questions. So ask for the mic so the people on Zoom can hear you, and we'll take a couple of questions.
Yeah, I just had a quick question. It sounds like you're going to be interacting with the front runner folks, but are you also going to be looking at possibly extending light rail to cut down on the travel times, you know, instead of widening the highway?
So there is as you alluded to, there is a current UTA front runner double track and electrification projects that are both on the long range plan. So our plan right now is just to try to work with those guys and accommodate them. We've already had some early coordination with UTA, and we're certainly up in Farmington and Centerville. There's a lot of areas where the corridors parallel. So we're certainly under clear direction that we're making sure whatever we're doing is not prohibiting or limiting their ability to do the double track. But yeah, right now there's no plan to go above and beyond what's currently on the UTA front runner plan.
One thing I'll add is those numbers you saw on that slide. Those assume all of the projects on the WFRC's long range plan are completed. With the exception of ours, because we don't know what that would be yet, but it assumes it includes double tracking. So even with all of those projects completed, that no build scenario that it shows, the increase in travel time still remains true. So there's still a problem to be solved, if that makes sense, even when we consider the double tracking and upfront runner. That's included in those numbers.
Thanks for coming out and explaining, especially announcing the comment period. That's great. So I just have a philosophical comment about why UDOT and transportation planners in general still default to widening freeway projects. So especially in isolation of land use planning. So obviously if traffic is difficult and commutes are long, there's a direct correlation with increase in ridership on trains and bus and alternative modes. So just that, and of course, if you build it, they will come. So that's the lesson learned, you know, throughout the world, and just a comment about why to not, to consider not widening as a preferred choice. So thank you.
Thanks for the comment. Since you categorized it as a comment, I wasn't planning on responding, but Kevin, do you want to share? I mean, it's certainly a philosophy that we've heard a lot, and planning is, there's lots of different ways to come at it, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just relay that in Utah, the land use is under the thumb of the local governments, and UDOT's purpose is really regional and statewide transportation. So that's kind of their lane, so to speak, in terms of what they're responsible for. But they are working closely with UTA and Wasatch Front. I mean, they're certainly interested in promoting other modes. It's just right now you're still talking 98% of regional trips anyway are by personal vehicle. So you're pushing the rock uphill quite a bit in terms of trying to change that dynamic out here anyway. But it's moved. I mean, I've been out here over 20 years, and it's that number's the split's gone up. I mean, it was sub 0.5% 20 years ago. So it is trending to have more, but it's not I'm not trying to sugarcoat like what the numbers are saying. So it's kind of is what it is.
Not to be facetious, but maybe just a little, would we reduce the environmental impact if we put a concrete plant right in the middle of the construction zone? You had to think about that.
Would we reduce the impact of the road project by having,
or reduce the environmental impact, so pollution?
There's, I guess ultimately that would depend where the material would be coming from.
Let's say it was Warm Springs Road.
Right. Well, I mean, certainly would be a potential benefit. I mean, the way UDOT typically bids the projects is they rely on the contractors to get together their bid. So, I mean, as long as we're hypothetically speaking, it would certainly seem like the transport cost would be quite a bit less as far as moving material if there were a source of material. I mean, there's already the pits on Beck Street, right? So there's already a source that would
everything's right there, right?
Somewhat close to the project.
I see a lot of concern about connection among communities, and that makes a lot of sense given UDOT's mission. We have concerns here, as you know, about the impact of the highway within a community. How is that addressed?
Can you elaborate on that a little bit, just in terms of how it is now, or how it would be with the project? Or
Yes, we have industrial traffic on a neighborhood street. I know it's a UDOT highway, but it's actually a neighborhood street. And we've been working with UDOT, and they've been very helpful, actually, in trying to improve that situation. So that's an example of the kind of thing. I mean, we would like to see a overpass so that trucks from Staker Parson can get to the 2300 North ramp and avoid using the 6 North ramp altogether. That's just an example of the kind of thing I'm talking about.
yeah, no, we've heard that from your group and the Salt Lake City Transportation Group as well, that's an interest, and we're certainly looking into what options are out there. As you guys are probably aware, there are some obstacles in terms of getting over the rail, and just making sure there's room to facilitate ramps. And as you guys, if you've driven on that Warm Springs, it's kind of funky right now. You can't get, kind of as the Granite Group was showing, right now you can't get all directions on I-15 there either. So that's certainly something we're looking into, is improving the function and just even the option of having people get some of the trucks anyway, right? I mean, it's, even if we can get a bigger fraction of the refinery or the gravel trucks off there, I mean, there's still going to be local trucks going into the city, right? But I'm sure anything helps in terms of anything we can do to try to reduce it, right, as part of the project.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. We really need to move on. Again, if you can get your questions to the council website or to our email address, we can pass them on and get you answers. Thank you very much for coming, and that was very informative. Thank you very much. Okay. I'm sorry, what? I can't hear you. Oh, okay. Well, great. We will get to her, I hope, before the end of the program. And I know Katherine Kennedy is here too, right? There she is. Who is that masked woman? Okay, the next item on our agenda is a water project, right, in Stain Street. So these gentlemen here will talk about that.
Hello, everyone. Just bear with us for just a second while we get our slides up. Yeah, sure thing. Okay, is that better? All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Duke Richardson. I'm with Avenue Consultants. I've been brought on by Salt Lake City Public Utilities to help with outreach for this project that we're going to go over today. With me is Diamond Zollinger. He is the project manager for this project, a representative of Salt Lake City Public Utilities. We are going to be talking to you about a water line project that's coming up pretty soon here, starting on State Street up by the Capitol. So just a second for those slides. All right, here we go.
Thanks, Duke. Like I said, I'm an engineer for Salt Lake City Department of Public Utilities. I'm the project manager on this project. It's a pretty critical project, and it's going to be impactful to everyone. So we wanted to make sure you were all aware and have the opportunity to ask questions. Just an overview. This project, the footprint extends on State Street from about 300 North to First Avenue. We will be replacing a water line. This water line is probably one of the original water lines installed when they built the city. So it's over 100 years old and it needs to be replaced. And it also needs to be upsized to support the growth in downtown. As part of this project, we'll also be doing miscellaneous sewer repairs. We figured while we were doing the water line, we would repair the sewer so we'd have a good conditioned sewer along with it. This effort will impact nearby residents. It will impact businesses and the traveling public. As you're aware, this is a main artery into downtown. In fact, this is my route into work, so I'm aware of the impacts. Our contractor is currently working with Salt Lake City Transportation and UDOT to come up with a traffic control plan. We're in the process a bit, so I do know some details, but they are subject to change. What we currently are thinking is State Street will be closed from North Temple to 300 North. It will only be local traffic only. We will be working in the northbound lanes, and so local traffic will be southbound. We're going to try to reroute the majority of the commuting traffic down Main Street onto where the church office building is on North Temple and go around and then down State Street. Another impact will be to the Avenues community. That intersection on North Temple and State Street will actually be closed on 2nd Avenue. And so the avenue traffic is going to have to go around and they'll be rerouted down A Street or B Street. Once again, this hasn't been officially approved yet, so it may change. Just want to make sure that's clear, but we're working on it. Our contractor's hoping to begin soon. I don't know if any of you have seen, we put up a couple signs we're trying to alert the traffic. And we will have detours, but we're recommending staying away from the area if possible. So currently, like I said, we're hoping we can begin starting as early as next week. The contract is 120 days, so that will push us into August. Currently, the contractor is trying to get all the permits in place, so that may change, but that is what we're shooting for. We're aware of a couple impacts on this road. Well, there's more than a couple, but a couple large events. One's the marathon, but that's this Saturday, so we won't impact it. And we're aware of a Pride March, and we spoke with the contractor, and he thinks he'll be able to accommodate it, as in we'll have one lane open for local traffic. We have, as Duke announced, we have a PI firm that's helping us, and we have a project website, a hotline, and an email. And we would recommend that each of you go onto the website and sign up for email updates. On the website, when we have the finalized traffic control plan, we'll put it up there, as well as project updates. So pretty quick, I imagine we'll have several questions. Do you need me to go back? Yeah. Yes, take a picture. Yes, there's a question. You have the microphone still.
Thank you. Yes, it's happy to hear that you're working with UDOT and with Salt Lake Transportation, no surprise. We're actually trying to train the traffic and to use the arterials, 300 West,
Yes.
VMS signs, way upstream of this region would be helpful to excite people into using the corridor at 300 West.
Yes, we've talked about that exact thing.
Yeah.
We were going to put it right at 300 West and Victory Road. The contractor was nervous about things getting vandalized in that area.
Mm-hmm.
So that still may happen. When this happens, so when the construction starts, it's going to be probably a rough transition for a couple weeks at least, but then I think everyone will be aware of that.
Yes.
I know when I commute in, I just look up Victory Road, and if it's busy, I continue on 300 West. into town. So
Yeah, so
that'll
the
be an option
coordination
as
with
well.
UDOT would be at the turn at North Temple, or even to show at VMS signs, the efficiency of going all the way, if you're in the morning, from Davis County, all the way to 4 South or 6 South. And then in the evening on South Temple, way upstream. And
Yes.
4 South, keep on going, stay on South Temple until you reach.
Yes, the plan is to
South.
put a
Yeah, okay.
VMS south, maybe between 400 or 500 south on State Street going north to help alert people and help them go through the smaller roads. And one more thing I forgot to mention. The bulk of the work is going to be in the North Temple State Street intersection. That's probably one of the most congested intersections utility wise. And so our plan is we're actually going to dig a really deep hole on either side and bore underneath it. So that's going to be a very dangerous area because they're going to be really deep pits, which is once again why we're going to try to close it at 2nd Avenue. So the avenue people won't have to pass through there. The other plan is the commuter traffic headed north. We're going to leave the left turn lane open going to North Temple. And we'll adjust the traffic signal to be left turn only and leave it green all the time. So it'll be a continuous flow. Yeah, so it'll be a left turn lane to North Temple, and on North Temple, they can either turn up Main Street or keep going west. We aren't going to direct them where to go from there. So they may continue to go west on that. Once again, this is all preliminary. So once we have the finalized version, we'll put it on our website and we can let you know as well. Yes.
Input from residents on your decision-making process about what we just were discussing about.
We can discuss it now. And on the website.
I'm not sure we have time today, but in the coming days, are you
Yeah,
open to?
yeah, sign up on the website.
Okay.
Comments, email. It will go to Duke, and then Duke will disseminate it to the project team.
Thanks.
The contractor, like I said, they're still working through all the permits and the scheduling and all that, and we'll do our best to accommodate your concerns.
It's gonna be a great pilot project. We may want to just keep that traffic rerouted.
Yeah, so once again, the people who have driveways on State Street, that's going to be a southbound one-way local traffic only. Yes, yeah.
I'm sorry, Vicki. We
Yes, so between North Temple and the Capitol is going to be closed to through traffic. So it'll be local traffic only. So the people that live in the area have driveways that need to use that. It'll be one way and it'll be southbound. And that traffic can't go through the intersection at North Temple. They'll be routed, they'll be directed to take a right on North Temple. Because the traffic coming up State Street is going to be a continuous flow on the North Temple. The other question was pedestrians. UDOT's going to program the lights that if there are pedestrians in the area, they can hit the buttons and the lights will allow the pedestrians to cross through that intersection. But once again, a special effort and concern with safety through here. The avenues the road gets really narrow through there. So we want to make sure that our contractor and the public are safe. So one more thing, the work hours through North Temple to 300 North, we want the contractor to be able to get in there and out of there as fast as they can. But we also don't want to interrupt people's sleep. So we've directed them, they can work between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. And then State Street on North Temple, they're going to try to do that during the day. And it depends on scheduling. They may have to do some night work as well.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's all the time we have enough for questions. Thank you guys very much for coming and sharing the information with us. And again, if you have further questions, and I imagine many of you do, if you'll get them to the council, we'll get them answered for you. Okay, is Kristy Gibby-Wachter here? Or is she online? Oh, you're right there. Okay. Here you go. No, please use the mic.
Polly posted it on your website. Okay, so Salt Lake City Marathon, it's showtime, folks. We start with our events. Well, we started on March 26th, where we had neighborhood notifications and we had a full crew of volunteers out there. I'm the volunteer director, by the way. And then we had another full crew on the 16th putting up lawn signs. And tomorrow we start stuffing the swag bags at the Salt Palace, and then expo pickup at the Salt Palace on Friday. And then Saturday, it's the big event. And I should say events, plural, because we have 7 events. Our objective is to let everyone who wants to participate, regardless of their athletic ability, participate somehow. So we have 7 events with this. We have the full marathon, which only has a couple of spots left. The half marathon, which I think is booked now. It had a couple of spots left 3 days ago. And then we have the 10K skate, a 10K walk run, 5K walk run, and a kids race, which is 1K. And it just goes around the area by Library Square, just in Library Square, actually. So this year we have also people participating from 48 states, every state but Arkansas and West Virginia coming here. We have people from 4 different countries. So we've got a bit of an international flavor, which we always do. We always have people from various countries. I think we've had a total of 50 countries in the history of our program. So it's time to show off Salt Lake City and the best that we have. And the athletes are excited. And I think they're very happy to escape the COVID cocoon. And volunteers. Now we need to talk about that. I still have places left for volunteers. So if you would like to volunteer, family, friends, neighbors, please sign up at saltlakecitymarathon.com because we still have some places left. We have fewer volunteers. And, this reminds me kind of the showing up thing. People are not used to this. We have the 2-year lag. Usually I have around 11 or 1,200 volunteers. I'm at about 680 right now. So if you know anyone, sign up, have them sign up. It's great. It's so fun. I have a quote from a guy who was a world-class athlete. He does Ironman races all over the world. And he said to me, he loves racing the Salt Lake City Marathon. He does it every year. And he said, it's great for training, first of all, for, whatever event he's working on next. And he said, I love it because I love the people. The volunteers are great, and we get such great support from the community. I come back every year for this. So anyway, we want to keep that up, and we're good to go. Any questions? Yeah. Oh, there are a host of things volunteers can do. You can stuff swag bags tomorrow. You can pass out swag bags and bibs on Friday. And then Saturday, we have very early morning at the start line, which is at the University of Utah. And then we have tons of things available on the finish line. And then throughout the 26.2 miles from here to Holiday, we have water stations that people pass out, and it's so fun. And we treat our volunteers very well. We have snacks, and we're gonna have little Jimmy John sandwiches. So the most important part, though, is at this point right now, we have over $50,000 that we're donating to the Huntsman Cancer Research Foundation. And that is the bottom line. That's why I got involved, when I had a father-in-law who was successfully treated there, and a sister as well. I think most of us have had cancer touch our lives in some way or another. So my real job is teaching at the University of Utah, but this is my heart job because of the cancer research. Any other questions? Okay, that was fast.
Road closures
great.
in the
Thank you.
neighborhood? I guess not. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna try to sneak Catherine Kennedy in here. We're trying to leave time for these candidates to take her place on the school board. So.
Thank you. I'm so sorry that I was late. I had another meeting scheduled before I knew that your time was changing, so I can adjust that meeting and be here on time. in the future, but could not do it this time. So I'm really glad you're having a session for the candidates, and I will try to be very fast because I came to hear them specifically. So I'm looking forward to that. A couple things. HB 11 went forward after being vetoed by the governor and came back to the legislature and was passed. I'm grateful for our legislators, Senator Kitchen, Representative Dailey-Provost, and the support they provided. It's not a good thing for kids. It's clearly punitive legislation. It's unnecessary, in my opinion, and also a messaging bill. And it's really too bad because it really does marginalize and work to make some of our students just feel bad. And so the Salt Lake City School District had a pretty robust response to it, which we sent to all parents about how we support all of our children. And so I just would hope that you would contract any of the legislators that are not our own, who already are supportive, or contact ours to say thank you. Contact others to say how much you disagree with this legislation, which just hurts kids. The district office is moving. We're going to rebuild the district office. We've been planning to do it for probably 5 years. We were slowed down during the pandemic. It is the only building in the Salt Lake City School District that has not been retrofitted or rebuilt to be earthquake safe. So we need to do that. We have pretty modest plans for it. It will be rebuilt on the same site. And we're moving to a temporary building on 5th East, just a couple blocks away. So know that you need to look it up if you need to go to the district office for any reason. Let's see. We are planning for no tax raise this year. In fact, your school district taxes should go down because, of course, what happens with taxes is that as our base grows and we get the same amount of money, your rate does decline unless we vote to keep your rate steady. And it looks as though we're not going to vote to keep your rate steady. So your taxes will not only not go up, they will go down. Usually Avenues and Capitol Hill residents are very supportive and actually would like us to keep it steady or at least raise it. And I appreciate that support. I would probably vote to do that, but it is a hard time for a lot of people with inflation going up. I do think it's a hard time, especially for people on fixed income. So I will support that reluctantly. Because as you know, we do not have enough money in the state for schools. We are doing a reallocation of vice principals, and that will probably impact Washington negatively. We'll probably go from a full-time vice principal to a half-time vice principal, which is unfortunate, but it's probably a more fair allocation system. So it's based on numbers, and my guess is that that will go forward, although we haven't voted for that yet. So if you have any feedback about that, please provide it. And then we also approved a new rental fee schedule last night, which makes our buildings, the rental fees for our buildings, which are open to the public to be rented, a little bit more comparable with what going rates are. So they are more expensive, but I think they're comparable. And that's it. Unless anyone has any questions, but I don't think I'll be allowed to take any questions. Okay, thanks.
There's been some discussion about closing schools due to population kids. Can you comment on that in the area?
I could at length, but probably what we should do, that's a really good question for the candidates. I can tell you why, but I'd really be interested to hear what our candidates think of that. And the reason is that population, people with school-age children it's harder for them to afford houses. And also people are having fewer children in Salt Lake City and Utah in general. So those are the reasons. It's not that people aren't choosing. In fact, we have a really good rate of attracting students from outside the district. So we do that really well. We can always do it better, but we could not reclaim the number of students we lost. In my opinion, it would be unreasonable to expect us to do that, though we're doing a little bit of it. So. But let's hear from the candidates on that question. Please ask that one.
Thanks very much, Katherine. How much longer will we have the pleasure of having you as our representative?
So that's a good question. My term goes till December 31st. I was accepted to the Harvard Kennedy School Master MPA, mid-career MPA program, which begins in July. Thanks to Chris Wharton for writing me a letter of recommendation. I'm sure that's why I was accepted. And so I'll be starting that. I did ask our attorney to give an opinion. They do have many elected officials that remain in their terms while they're there. So I've asked our attorney to give me her opinion about whether I can do that or whether I'll need to resign. So I hope to just stay in my position and attend meetings remotely, which is more and more possible after the pandemic. But that's a good question. So I hope till December 31st.
Thank you very much. Okay, the library has altered its schedule, which is why the meeting was moved up 15 minutes. We're being asked to finish by 7:45. So we have a little bit more than 15 minutes. Now, how many candidates for the school board do we have here? We have 3. Okay. Why don't we give each of you 3 minutes to just talk, and then you take questions for the rest of the time. Yes, Derek.
So I have a community council meeting in Glendale at 7:45. I'm hoping to take a moment.
Yeah, please just keep it as short as you can. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you so much. My name is Derek Kitchen, and I represent you in the Utah State Senate. And I'd like to pass these around if I may, if you don't mind. So I just want to give you a quick update after the legislative session ended about a month ago. So we wrapped up our 45-day legislative session on the 4th of March, so just about 4 weeks ago. The legislative session was all-consuming for 45 days. Our main objective as legislators are twofold: pass the state budget and work on policy. This year, the state budget reached almost $25 billion. This is a state record. A lot of that is due to federal funds that came through, obviously relating to COVID, but we're also starting to see some infrastructure funding start to come through. So I'll just leave it there. There's some information on this flyer on the budget, which I encourage you to read. Please reach out with any questions. On the policy front, I work on 2 things related to public policy. First one is committee assignments. I serve on a variety of different committees. The biggest one is the Economic Development and Workforce Services, and the secondary is the Executive Offices and Criminal Justice. This is my budget committee. It oversees the budget of the Attorney General, the state courts, the state prison, the governor's office. It's one of the biggest committees that I sit on. So please reach out to me with any questions there. Policies that come through in addition to my committee that I work on primarily focus on constituent issues. So this flyer, which I have about one for every other person in the room, so if you could maybe share, this is my policy agenda. Things that come through my office this year focused on 3 main buckets, 3 main objectives: housing, environment, and democracy with a little d, small d democracy, right? Housing. Utah is the fastest growing state in the country. We also have the youngest population in the country. The Salt Lake metro region, which houses about 1/3 of the state population, we have a 2% vacancy rate. It's the historic low in our community. What that means is little supply, huge demand. It's driving up cost of living for people in the state of Utah. So housing is continuing to be what I focus my policy priorities on, because it also matters when we start talking about homelessness as well. Housing is so crazy right now. I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about that. But housing will continue to be my focus. Environment, air quality, water. We're a high desert. We're in a historic drought, 1,200-year drought. We have the Great Salt Lake, it's shrinking. We have booming population. It's drawing on all of our water resources. Water is going to be the big issue environmentally that consumes public policy over the next decade or so. Little d democracy, and I'll leave you with this, David. We saw what the legislature did over the last couple of years with all of the voter initiatives: Medicaid, cannabis, funding for education, and more recently, redistricting. In November, we had the Independent Redistricting Commission put forward 3 maps that were drawn by the Independent Commission. The legislature refused to vote on a single one of them. And instead, at the 11th hour, they pulled out of their back pocket these maps that had been drawn in secret by the RNC and others, gerrymandered maps, if you will. And that's what we're dealing with right now. So we're dealing with small d democracy, big issues when we're talking about accountability and good government. I want you to know that as your representative in Salt Lake City, I will always stand up to the Republican supermajority and fight for what the people of the state of Utah vote for. So my contact information is on here. I encourage you all to reach out to me. I won't take questions because I know we're on a limited time frame, but I'd love to hear from you. So please reach out.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, so maybe we'll take 2 minutes each for each candidate. If you wouldn't mind standing in front of the computer here, then you'll have a whole square to yourself up there and we can. All right, well, whatever you like.
For the benefit of everyone on Zoom, I won't stand so you have a direct view of my chin, but my name is Ashley Anderson. I'm an arts educator and parent, and I am a teacher, obviously, so I brought some handouts if you don't mind passing them around. I'm a former member of this council, so I know several of you, but there's a lot of new faces. I'm the mom of 2 kids who live in this precinct, and I'm running for precinct 3 on the school board. I'm one of 3 candidates. You can look on the postcard, my website. I have a lot of education issues. How many people here are parents of kids in the school district? So as is typical, this council doesn't include a lot of parents, and that does speak to some of the enrollment questions brought up. But there are a lot of intersections of the issues of this council with the school board. One would be transportation. You obviously have a traffic calming plan. You've been involved with West SCC, and I've been lucky to be involved in that. We have a lot of West High alumni who are very involved and would care about issues like rebonding and building West. So outside of my interest in the classroom and in education and my work as an educator, I am also pretty familiar with some of the things this council does and would like to help represent those on the board. That also includes redevelopment projects that are school district funds that impact our area and some of the growth, including the buildings that you see here around the library. So I don't want to take a lot of time. My website speaks to a lot of my issues and my background as an educator and a mom. And, you know, I really am, and who remembers me from the council? John, Vicki, you know that education is probably the #1 thing in my life, not just because of my own kids. I've been on school community councils and PTAs every single year. My kids have been in school. Prior to them doing that, I was a specialist through Tanner Dance. And I also work at the University of Utah training pre-service arts educators. So I'm very involved in the classroom, in state level education policy. And one thing I'm really proud to share with you today is that I'm endorsed by Representative Dailey-Provost, who's really represented this community very well. And I'm really thrilled to have her endorsement. So I'll take questions after. I know we need to get out of the library, and I appreciate Safi. I saw him back there, but maybe he's out of here, giving us the time to share a little bit of our background and our experience. So thank you so much. I'll pass the mic to the next person, and that's my 2 minutes.
Who's next?
Hi, I'm Frank Langheinrich. I live on the avenues. I'm going to tell you why you ought to vote for me. First, I am an East German refugee. I've always gotten along very well with our minority students because my experiences immigrating in the 1950s after World War II is not unsimilar to what our students who are coming into the country now have faced. It's made me very popular with those kids. But having gotten here, like I said, I've been on the avenues. All of my education has been around here. I went through the Salt Lake school system. We have 3 children. They've all attended Salt Lake City public schools, grandchildren. I graduated from the University of Utah. So I've been around, but I've also been a teacher for 32 years, 22 of them at East High School. And I know my way around. While I was there, I was on our SIC for about 15 of those years. I was the SIC chair for 3 terms. I was on the board of the Salt Lake Education Association for 12 years. And for those 12 years, I negotiated the teacher's contract. And my part, because I have a financial background as well, was to negotiate the salary, the money part of the contract. So this is important for you who don't have kids in the district. I understand what the educational issues are. I have 3 specific things that I would want to address. And I just made some little business card types of things to show you my email address. It's got my phone number on it. You can text me since I don't have any more time. But you should care that I have a financial background because the Salt Lake School District's budget this year is $317 million. it was about 270 last time I negotiated when in 2019, I think. I didn't go back to double check that, but you know, about half of your property tax money goes to the Salt Lake School District. Now, that's not a bad thing, depending on how it's used and how open it is. And one of my three big issues, well, one of them is how to get kids to be happy coming to school, because Katherine's right. We get students in from other districts, but we also lose a bunch of them, or we lose them to online. Why is it that they'd rather be sitting at home in front of a computer instead of being in class? But you should care about how they spend the money and the lack of transparency, because most of the district decisions are made in meetings that are not the public board meetings. The public board meetings just have consent agendas, and that's it. We need to get that out in the open, some daylight. Thank you. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for this time, and thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Frank, for your contributions to education, for your experience. I'm Curtis Linton. I'm running for School Board 3, as all of us are. My background is in education. I've spent my entire career working with thousands of schools across the country. Resources and consulting, whatnot, that I've done, have served over 1 million educators during that time. My job has always been studying highly effective schools. What do great schools do? And Salt Lake is going through the changes. We've already heard the declining enrollment. Katherine, you were right saying, ask the candidates this question. Change invites innovation. And so this really is our opportunity to be able to look in and say, what are our schools? Where can we innovate? Where can we improve? You know, we're a gentrifying city, but we're also a fast growing city. And no great city can stand on the shoulders of a declining school system. Fundamentally, great cities invest in their future. And so I have 4 main things that, that I'm passionate about, that I would love to see happen within Salt Lake City schools. And the first is making sure that we align district resources to individual student needs. When we know what the need is of each individual student and we support that need, that student engages, they learn, they succeed. The second is really empowering innovation for excellence in all of our neighborhood schools. Fundamentally, we talk about school choice all the time, but how often do we talk about choice within learning within our neighborhood school? As we empower our neighborhood schools, they become campuses of excellence that will not only hold on to the students that are there, but attract new students to them as well. So a school by school innovation for excellence effort. The third piece is really looking at college and career readiness for our high school students. And one of the things that I will push the district to do is to guarantee every graduating student, not only that they are college, career, and ready, but they either have a general ed certificate because of concurrent enrollment or some sort of professional certification when they leave. Do you realize in the district, we are 2 PhD science teachers away from being able to offer our high school students a general ed certificate by the time they graduate high school? Now, we have to look at capacity. We'd have to hire a lot more, but we're that close to having this in place. Fourth piece is investing in our teachers. We have a teacher shortage. It is hard to recruit teachers. I know I'm at my time, but fundamentally, it is far more efficient, economically efficient for the district to double down on investing in high quality teachers, training them, supporting them, apprenticeships, supporting them through graduate programs, than to constantly be going out recruiting new teachers to come in. We can do this. I'm excited. My whole career has been focused on asking the question, what do great schools do? Can we define it? I know how schools work. I know how school systems work. And I very much look forward to following in Katherine's footsteps and serving the district.
Thank you very much. If all 3 of you wouldn't mind coming up and maybe bring a chair so you don't have to stand like you're in a firing squad. We have 5 minutes, unfortunately, only for questions. Who's got the cordless mic? Okay.
We're open for questioning?
Yes, please.
We're open for questioning.
No, please use the microphone. You have a question?
What do you think is the most pressing issue, save our declining enrollment? Don't answer declining enrollment now, but what's the most pressing issue, not including declining enrollment, and how would you solve it?
Well, I don't know what the most pressing, because there are several, but a pressing one is that the perception is terrible. We're on the news all the time. Every time something bad happens, it's in the Salt Lake District, it's all over the place. But today, I don't know why I was there. I was looking at a real estate site, and it said schools. It was somebody was trying to sell a house in Salt Lake, and they said, well, Salt Lake has poor schools, but you can send your kids out to Granite School District where they have good ones. So I think that's a completely wrong perception. And the reason they have this is because of the old ABCD thing, which is one of the worst things the state ever did, because the Salt Lake School District has been fabulous with what we have. If you consider the amount of diversity we have among our students in every way, in cultural diversity, economic diversity, what we are able to do and the number of kids we can graduate and at the levels they graduate, I mean, we are fabulous. And it just drives me crazy. I mean, I think there are improvements that can be made, but it's a lot of perception, and it's brought about a lot by the state government on how they, yeah.
Oh, no, it's okay. Frank was totally on a roll. Frank was actually the debate coach at East when I was a high school student at Jordan High. And I did debate at the same time as Wharton. Anyway, not to use my time talking about that, but I think that declining enrollment intersects with so many of the issues facing our district. And I would echo what Frank has said about, the perception, unfortunately, that as the only urban school district in our capital city, we get a lot of the negative press. I think that enrichment program inequity is a big problem in our district, and it relates to declining enrollment. When we have schools that are really small, that can't adequately fundraise for the things that kids really love, that make them want to go to school, debate, fine arts programs, school plays, right? Like, I remember being in the school play. I don't remember taking necessarily standardized assessments. There are so many things that make school wonderful that are really hard to achieve in our current climate, not only because of perception, but also declining enrollment. And it's something that I am really passionate about in my background as an arts educator. And so that's enrichment program inequity would be one thing. And the second would be, our ability financially to negotiate for things people want. Another endorsement that I have is from the Union for Education Support Professionals. That means custodians, school cafeteria, nutrition staff, that those folks have endorsed me because they know that the negotiation issues on the table for them are really important, especially in our only urban school district, fully urban school district. Thank you. And I'll give the last time to Curtis.
Curtis, you have the last word.
Oh my. There's a short-term issue and a long-term issue. If we're saying what is the second most pressing issue, short-term issue is that students, teachers are overwhelmed, burned out, levels of trauma, mental health, student wellness, challenges that schools have never seen before. I've done a series of workshops this year with all the school counselors in Salt Lake District. We posed that question: are you seeing an increase in terms of mental health, self-harm, bullying, harassment, disengagement? They say it's through the roof. Never seen it. So this is not unique to Salt Lake. This is nationwide. And so first and foremost, we need to think literally about the wellness of our students and our educators. And it has to happen quick. Otherwise, we will lose them, actually lose them this year, next year, whenever it may be. The long-term pressing need, and it is tied to declining enrollment, is about 17 years ago, the first time that I sat down with the superintendent in Salt Lake and shared the time I had spent in high quality urban districts and also low quality. I mean, I've been in both, and shared that Salt Lake has a profile about it that could allow Salt Lake City to be absolutely the leader in urban education in the nation. We have the population, we have the funding, we have the community support, we have the value to kids. Now we have the economy, the business support, the innovation, the research university. We have not lived up to that promise. And the challenge is that school systems either slowly decline to a point of mediocrity where it's too late for them to realize what's happened. And then they're in crisis trying to repair it. Or they embrace change, they embrace innovation, they recognize that kids today are different learners fundamentally. They reach out to the community, to the businesses. They build that support so that Salt Lake City not only can have the best economy in the nation, can hands down be the best urban school district in the nation. We can do this. It's not easy, but it is doable. And I would say that is our long-term challenge, but it's also our opportunity. Why? Because it serves our kids.
Okay, I'd like to remind everybody that our meetings are the third Wednesday of every month at 6. I think they will be at 6:15 from now on. I encourage you all to visit our beautifully rebuilt website. I would like to thank a board member who's not here, Jackson Bradshaw, for doing all this work. Was Jackson up on the screen? Well, if he's not, he did it anyway. Anyway, so it's been redesigned and it's better user interface, better user experience, and the valuable information is front and center now. So you can go there to look at the meeting minutes. You can go there to find about the latest of the traffic calming plan, which we didn't have time to discuss tonight, and many other issues that the neighborhood faces. So please, www.chnc-slc.org. And with that, thank you all. If people could hang around and help us put away chairs and help the library staff get out of here so they don't have to spend all night at work. Thank you all very much.